So I wanted to talk about the lousy side top, or I became the lousy side top. It started off as a really good story. I think it was super cute. It ended very Disney, but I think it dropped the ball a lot on a few things. So let's start off from the beginning, right? It's a typical transmigration BL novel or storyline where they end up being stuck in a book. This one is unique because one, they don't remember who they are. Typically, a lot of them remember who they are. This one, he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't even know what his real name is. So he's just walking around trying to figure out what to do with himself because he transmigrates into the side top who gets X'd by the main top, which we call the crazy dog in this case, the crazy top dog. And it's it's cute. It's so cute in the beginning. It starts off like him bonding with the people he meets, and he like makes the life of Hyeojin, who is like the main lead, like the main bottom. Typically, in a lot of these stories, the main bottom is always suffering. I don't like that trope, but it's the truth. They're constantly suffering. Oh my god. In this case, this quote unquote bottom is suffering because he's in a huge amount of debt. His father is a piece of poop. His mother ran away, and he is stuck paying back his father's debt and taking care of his two younger brothers. Very cute kids, but it's a lot of stress for someone so young. I mean, I don't even think he's like 21. He's very young. And so we have this story of this person that's being abused by essentially society, being used by his parents, and being hounded by creditors, and having this person outside of the world who's just trying to help him. So it's very cute in the beginning. We meet the kids, it's very family oriented. 10 out of 10. And then it goes sideways. It goes sideways because now we get introduced to Mujin, who is the crazy top, who acts like a rabid dog and has no manners, and apparently only drinks expensive foreign alcohol and expensive foreign water. There's another trope we have for these types of crazy tops where they make no sense and they get their nutrition from air, essentially, and their anger. So do with that what you will. So we're just, getting to meet him. We find him left behind like trash in an alley. He apparently was only staying there because he was over his life, essentially. He gets betrayed a lot, and he's just like, maybe I will die this time. Although he's like, I'm pretty strong, I probably won't. So I'm just gonna mope here for a little bit, which, valid. That's valid. If I was getting backstabbed all the time and like actually stabbed, I would also maybe take a breather in this back alley, just. But he spends like 3 days out there. I don't know how he survived for 3 days. But a stab wound. And then it's so nonchalant because our main character, Jaewoo, he's just like brings this man in with like a trolley into his house, and he like no one takes him to the doctor or anything. Like he just magically heals. But you know what? That's BL novel tropes right there. Whatever. These types of tops did just magically heal until like the last few episodes where like even air can take them out for like dramatic effect. But okay. So he's doing that. He brings him into his house, and then that's where everything hits the fan. Honestly, everything hits the fan. He chokes him, and honestly, I feel like Jaewoo has no like self-preservation. I don't know if it's because he feels like there's a book, so it doesn't matter, and also because he's in a character who's like pretty much intended to die. But he has very little like self-preservation. You see this happen repeatedly. Repeatedly. He gets choked out repeatedly, puts himself in dangerous situations repeatedly, and just it's like whatever these crazy tops do to him, because later on we have another crazy top that's a little bit less insane than our typical crazy dog top. This one is more like a suave crazy top. we're gonna talk about him. But Jaewoo is just like, it's like a water off a duck's back. Like he gets his phone smashed several times, and he's just like, I'm gonna be angry on the inside, but there's like very little outward reaction. And at times, his expressions, I don't know if it's like the way that he was drawn. Occasionally, his expressions is just like, like, I'm laughing about it and it doesn't really bother me that much, although in that situation it should. And also the way that they're constantly manipulated him. Like, he's just being thrown around all the time. Like a piece of meat. I don't know. He's just being shuttled from one place to the other, being threatened from one to the other. It's just odd to me how he's so chill about it, but this repeats constantly. And it got to a point where I was like, he almost has no personality sometimes. Like, sometimes his personality is really strong, especially in the beginning. He's like very kind-hearted. He thinks about other people. He loves cooking, stuff like that. But then progressively, he becomes more bland. And I don't know if he's suffering from like the Mary Sue or like Gary Stu complex or the White Lotus complex. We'll get more into that as we go through the story. But anyways, Mujin is here, crazy top dog, and he starts threatening everybody. He threatens him so that he can work for him, so he can essentially pay off half of Hyeojin's like insane debt that his father keeps accumulating, by the way. Oh my god. His father is just ugh. Anyways, so he ends up working for this man in order to get Hyeojin's debt repaid like by half. And essentially, he's just making food for him. He's a little smart in some cases. He tests out like how far he can get away with doing things. Like, he'll give him like really fermented food that's really stinky. He'll also like try to like test boundaries. I found like that was like a key look into his personality, which I did like. Um, I actually think it kind of built a better character, and it kept me from thinking that he was very bland as white bread, which is very important because sometimes he just reacted in such a bland way to physical harm, you know? So as he's doing this, we now meet the other second crazy top, which ends up being his friend apparently from the world he came from, the original one. This friend doesn't have as many memories, but he has enough where he knows that he's here looking specifically for Jaewoo. So this is actually his friend Injun, I think is his name. And apparently, crazy background for this man, but he is also very obsessed with the MC. I don't know what the MC has. He must be like, I don't know. He must taste sweeter than honey because three men are after you. Damn. Okay. Good for you. Well, not really, because two of them are crazy. I wouldn't want that on anyone. So he's dealing with his crazy friend, and he. This is where things get convoluted. His crazy friend now wants him to die because it's the way that he can leave the book. But in order to do that, he threatens him because he's realizing that his friend has fallen in love with the book's MC, which is Hyeojin. So he makes Hyojin aware of the promise between Mujin and Jaewoo. And so that kind of guilt trips Hyojin into like, oh my god, all I ever do is ruin everybody's lives. Like, because of me, he now has to be with this crazy man that choked her out, and he's suffering for no reason really. And then, like, he also has abandonment issues and like just feeling like the world is against him. He's very dramatic, but justifiably so. I mean, he's had no hope in life. Everybody he knows has abandoned him. He only has his two brothers. His landlord, prior to being taken over by Jaewoo, was like a real creep. And was always trying to solicit like these Segi, like these spicy favors from him. So he's really had nothing going for him, working four different jobs at once, trying to feed him and his siblings, essentially eating pack ramen noodles all the time. So he's justifiably very depressed, very dramatic, very woe is me, but justifiably. So I understand that completely. For some people, though, it might be a little bit like, whoa. I think it's because of the pacing. Like sometimes you don't get enough time to really simmer into how difficult his life is. So occasionally, when we have like almost these quote unquote moments of intense depression and like intense self doubt and self hate and just like nihilism, it comes off over dramatic, even though it's really not. He's justified in his feelings. So I just wanted to bring that up because I feel like he's very justified. And so he then confronts Jaewoo, like, hey, I know that you're doing this because of me. I'm essentially the problem. You don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to be in this deal with this crazy man anymore. And so he convinces him to stop that. And Mujin, being Mujin, is like, ha ha ha, like, sure, whatever. He's not really going to take no for an answer. But what ends up happening is that not only does Mujin not take no for an answer, he essentially makes another deal with Hyeojin to make him a gangster, essentially. He's like a rookie gangster that's just going around beating people, like a creditor, essentially, like an awful creditor, trying to break him down mentally. And the way is to force Jaewoo to essentially give himself willingly to Mujin, which, of course, come on, like crazy tops are always like this. This is like the template example of a crazy top. The interesting thing is that Jaewoo, really the entire storyline, he was like, yes, I do not want Hyeojin to fall in love with me, because prior to this, Hyeojin makes it very aware, like, I love you actually. And Jay was like, no, you have someone else. You wanted to pair Hyeojin with Mujin. Really? Like, I understand the original storyline was going this way, but if I was transmigrated into the story, you better believe I'm taking Hyeojin for myself. Like, what do you mean I'm gonna put this depressed child that's been through like the ringer with this crazy gangster that essentially tried to break his spirit and then last minute felt bad about it, and so he didn't do it, and so that's how they fell in love. Like, their story is so toxic. That whole like storyline would have been so toxic. But I don't feel like Jay would like really thought that through. I think he maybe thought like it's none of my business, but still, if I'm in the book, now it's my business. You know what I'm saying? But okay, sure, I'm gonna let it go. Anyways, he tries to break them down mentally. So, Jaewoo is like turned up about it. So he tries to reach out to his friend to like make another deal, and his friend is like, yeah, sure, I will help him. By the way, his friend is the one that told him everything, which now Jaewoo knows that he was the one that told Hyojin everything, and that's what caused the whole rift between them, and now that he has to become essentially a slave to Mujin. And he's like, listen, what is it that you want? Like, please help me, like, save him. And he's like, sure, if you die. And the way he said it was so gleefully. And I was thinking, you love this man, right? Like, you love this man. You're so ready to have him killed. Like, I understand it's a story, but Jesus, like, he was really, like, excited to have him killed. Ugh. Jeez. Okay. Anyways, so they agree. Okay, sure, I will die and I will go with you to the real world because, again, this is a book. This is a book. Logically speaking, most people would be like, yeah, like, it's reasonable for your friend to want to, like, take you out of this book, even if it means killing you, because this is not real life. You don't belong here. You have family and friends back home. Like, why are you staying in a fake, fictional place? So I guess in that way, Eunjun was not that crazy. Sure, even though he was so gleeful to get him killed, but okay. So they agree. He's now gonna have like a conversation with Mujin. So he's like, yeah, just give me Hyojin. I'm gonna take him. But then Mujin gets pissed because he knows he made an agreement with him. And when finally, because at this time, Mujin doesn't want to see uh, Jaewoo until he agrees to give himself like willingly to him. And he finally like snaps and he's like, what did you get? Like, what do you give him in return? Because he says no to when they try to negotiate. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he like, what did you give him that he was like so willfully willing to come over here and have this conversation with me and essentially become an antagonist to me? And he's like, oh, I gave him myself. But he doesn't know that when he said I gave him myself is I'm gonna go off myself so we can go back to the real world. So he's thinking it's like a sexual kind of thing. And he gets pissed and he's like, listen, I'll return Hyeojin. I'll free him if you become mine. And so he agrees. Jaewoo agrees. And I'm like, okay. At this point, you do you, B. Like, you made deals with two people and you were like, if you don't get it, I'm like, at this point, I'm laughing because he's pretty smart. He's pretty clever. If it wasn't for the fact that he was just so willfully willing to put himself in danger and being kind of like so nonchalant about it, I mean, like, this is the smartest person in this entire place. He's just making deals with everybody, backstabbing everybody, and getting what he wants. And he kind of does because he's very single-minded. We're going to talk about that a little more later, but yeah, so he makes this deal and he's like, give me a week. I'm going to spend my time with Hyeojin and then I'll come back and be your man's. And that's what happens. And of course, at this time, Hyeojin finds out and he's a big man. He's like, listen, you promised me that you were going to die so we can go back to the real world. What are you doing? And so, again, Jay was like, I'll do it. What? He's making deals with two people at the same time. He's hilarious. And so he's promising one dude that he's gonna die. He's promising the other dude that I'm gonna be a man. I'm like, okay. Sure. He's mostly heartbroken that he can't stay with Hyeojin and his little brother. So there's that. So at the end, Mujin, like a big asshole, seriously, like a big a-hole, he comes in and he's like, yeah, I came to pick you up. Takes him out of the little RV that they're in because they went to the beach. They started doing a lot of great activities while they had this 1 week because he essentially lies to Hyeojin that he's like a free man and that there's no problem and that they're going to open a restaurant together. And all this other stuff. They go to the beach, they watch movies, they do all this cute stuff together, BBQs, and then Mujin comes in to like burst that bubble. He couldn't even wait until they left. He just came to pick him up to show, like, to slap it into Hyeojin's face that, hey, yeah, I'm taking your man. Anyways, yeah, so he comes, and at the same time, there is this oddly malnourished man coming towards Jaewoo, and Jaewoo's like, what is this man doing? Like, why is he getting so close to me? At the same time, Hyeojin is like on the floor crying. Mujin is like being a big a-hole. And Jaewoo is looking at this man, and I'm thinking to myself, this man looks familiar to me. Who is this man? This cannot be. I hope this is not Hyeojin's father. Lo and behold, we find out later that yes it is. Because of course. Anyways, this emancipated man stabs Hyeojin, kills him, and Mujin has essentially a mental breakdown for a while. Of course, Hyeojin is like depressed. They're grieving, both of them. And then this is later on when they find out that the one that killed Jaewoo was essentially Hyeojin's father. He was hired by Hyeojin to kill him. Yeah. It came whole big circle. And so now we have this. I mean, that's just real messed up. Like, Hyeojin really said, F you, Hyeojin. F you. I'm going to make your life absolutely miserable. Because what could have happened after that? I mean, Mujin could have like really tried to kill Hyeojin for like whatever, or like made his life more miserable after they were gone. So he was just so angry that Jaewoo somehow got his love, that he really wanted this character to be destroyed, even though he kept saying it was just like a fictional book, it didn't matter. But he really just tried to do his very best to make sure that Hyeojin would live a miserable life. And he did that by having his father kill Jaewoo, because also the guilt that he will feel by knowing that his father, who he did hate his father a little bit, but his father, who had already done so many awful things to him and his brothers and was essentially ruining his life, has now taken the one thing in his life that he has to look forward to, other than his little brothers, of course. The guilt, and then like Mujin being crazy, you don't know how he's gonna react. It's very maniacal, honestly. Anyways, at this point, Jaewoo comes out of the story, and then we realize, or we learn from his memories, that the one that brought him into the story was the sister of Ujin, which is Una, I believe, is the name. And all I'm thinking to myself is, hold on, wait a minute, what? What? So you're telling me that they are magical siblings? They essentially have the power to put people into the books. The crazy thing is that Jay would like essentially wakes up and he meets Ujin right then and there. He takes the book mad at him, like, hey, why did you do that? Um, he's just mad at Ujin because he kind of knows that he was the one that, oh no, he remembers from the text that he sent them the night before that he was the one that had him killed. And he essentially can't ever see Hyeojin again. And he's just like essentially making fun of his love for him, even though he's a fictional character. It's like, if you're such a good friend, you wouldn't be making fun of him. But also, I think Jaewoo was kind of disgusted at his friend. He never saw this side of him. And he probably treated him as a really serious friend. So for him to try to destroy the person he loved in that way by being so like manipulative and also making sure he can't stay with him was just like, it was too much. Particularly because he also didn't understand how, like, why his friend loved him so much. Like, also being told by his friend that he loved him and he was like will do anything to keep him. That was like very frightening. And I don't think he ever saw that side of his friend, so he couldn't really trust his friend anymore. Like, that friendship was essentially over. The funny thing is, though, is that the sister has a vendetta against her brother, and so we find out that the whole reason he ends up in this BL book is because she wanted to make him disappear so she could destroy her brother's mentality, which I feel like that was so out of nowhere. Like, I wish we got more time to really understand that dynamic. Like, why does she not like her brother? Like, I can understand actually why she doesn't like her brother. I bet he's insufferable. Like, he just seems manipulative and like he'll always be the good child, but he'll like backstab and do bad things in like behind your parents' back, and then act like a goody two shoes, and then occasionally make you seem like the bad guy or like incompetent. Like, I feel like that's his vibe, to like always be the golden child. And so maybe she has that vendetta against them. But also, I think they're like super wealthy, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they are. They're super wealthy. Because there's reference before that when he went to Mujin's apartment, Jay was like, whatevs, because he's seen like luxurious places like that before. And it's essentially because Ujin has a similar apartment. And so I think they're like super wealthy, like Chibbles. So I think it was like an inheritance thing, maybe. Like, I'm doing a lot for the sibling storyline that didn't get like more than like a chapter and a half. But I'm assuming that that's what it is. It was like an inheritance thing, but also she just didn't like her brother because he was always trying to act like he was better than everybody and like probably did some stuff to her. Anyway, she was like holding that hate down deep and like acting gullible, whatever, until she found his weakness, which was Jaewoo, the love that he could never have. And so she trapped him in a BL novel without his memories. I think maybe when you travel to these like books or whatever, you just lose your memories, because Eugene also did, but not as much. I think it's because he put himself through the book so he can get them back. But anyways, he comes back and he realizes, like, Jaewoo comes back and he realizes that Unnan was the one that put him in there. And he tries to ask Ujin to try to put him back in, but he says no. And so he tries to like essentially harass Unnan to send him back, and she keeps saying no. So finally she says, ask Ujin. And so he like depressed, it's like, fine, if I ask, I'll maybe like something will happen. Like maybe I don't know, we'll get together. He'll not get together. He'll let me like go. Although he's like very doubtful, and I'm doubtful. Like, this man is psychotic, and so of course the answer is no. So then finally he like begs and begs again. She gives, she's like, fine, whatever. Although I feel like that was like a strategy on her part, because she gave up real fast, honestly. she definitely wanted to see her brother like have a mental breakdown, losing him. So she was all too happy to send this man back into that book. She even gave him one of her little expensive rings so he can have some money over there. And then she tells him, hey, I can't prevent you from being captured by Hyeojin again. So if the book is around, he can do that. But if we send a book, you know, somewhere far like the ocean, he can't find you. And all I thought to myself was, ooh, that's a little aggressive. You're gonna drop the book into the ocean after like sending him in it? I do appreciate though that she let him know that even though this is a book, it is a real world, because after he was in it, the book changed. Like the contents of the book did change. So it kind of gave him peace of mind, because the entire time Ujin was like gaslighting him, telling him that it's a fake world, it doesn't matter, these are fictional characters. So for her to validate his feelings, because he wanted him to be happy, he wanted the kids to be happy as well, he wanted to stay with them. Which I had a question the entire time. Does he have no siblings? Does he have no family? It's never really mentioned. I don't know if it's in the light novel it's mentioned, but in this world it's not mentioned. He's just like living his vida loca, I guess. And there's like no reference to family. And like his one friend was essentially Ujun. So I'm just like, are you an orphan? Is that why you're so like chill to live in a whole new world? I mean, it takes a lot of courage to do that, of course. I'm not going to take that away from him, but I'm also wondering, like, you have no attachment to your original world at all. And you're doing this for love, which, had it been a girl and a boy, we all would have been like, what are you doing? Why are you giving up your whole life for someone you met for like a year? I feel like that's the logical concept, like thinking like, whoa, you're gonna like really have no option to come back to your world. Because you gotta remember, when he goes to the new world, he's gonna have no ID, because he's not living in the original Jaewoo's body, at least because he's dead. Like he died there in that body. So when he goes back, he's gonna go into his own body as Jaewoo. He's gonna have no ID, he's gonna have barely any money, he's gonna have no place to live if like anything happens. So there's like nothing to his name. So he's like really, it's not like moving to another country or anything like that. This is like greater than that, because there's no family, there's nothing. You have no identity at all. So I understand that is a webtoon. I can't be thinking so deeply, but I just feel like his decision to go there was so fast. He didn't even take time to really think about it. It was like harass Unan to like get me there, and then just like make a split decision while they're having coffee. And it's like, yeah, I'm totally fine with you sending me into the book forever and like dropping that book into the ocean. And the funny thing is, Unan is like, she doesn't tell them, oh, by the way, like the timeline you left at might not be the same timeline you arrive at, so like some time might have passed. And I'm just like, girl, okay, you be you be petty, fine. So when he arrives into the, oh wait, actually, this is a great picture. I'm gonna put it up here. So Ujin like figures out that they're going into the ocean, because they take a boat to like drop the book into the ocean, and he's like running in his little yacht, whatever, trying to get them, and it's already too late. He's already in the book, and she's already dropped it into the bottom of the ocean, and she's just like, yeah, like grinning like a Cheshire grin, like, yes, look at my brother, he's gonna have a whole titty attack because he lost the man of his life essentially. I feel like him already having his love unreciprocated was already like a pretty big thing. But maybe because he's so delusional and crazy, it wouldn't have mattered. He would have probably just assumed that he can like guilt trip Jaewoo to stay with him, or like force him somehow to stay with him. So like it didn't even matter if Jaewoo didn't reciprocate his feelings. So maybe she thought, it can't be just that. I gotta make sure this man really suffers by never being able to see him again. Maniacal. But okay, I guess girl boss, whatever. So we're back in the book world, and it's been a year, and Hyeojin is essentially living his life with his little brothers in the property that Jaewoo left to him, but it's like the property from the original Jaewoo, and they're living there. He doesn't have debt anymore, but the kids have grown a little bit, and Hyeojin is skinny, and so Jaewoo is super excited to meet him, but then he has like second thoughts, because he realizes, oh my god, how is he gonna recognize me? We're similar, like the original Jaewoo and the the OG Jaewoo from the book are actually similar in appearance, but that doesn't mean that they're easily recognizable. Like, he died in that world. How can someone assume like your dead lover? And it's not like reincarnation. It's like you're like just a year away from their death. That would be crazy. Explaining that whole situation in the beginning will be like wild. So he was just too hesitant to say anything. And not only that, he then sees that there's like this woman behind him, which we never get reference to who this woman is again afterwards. Like, he just assumes that it's like his new lover, like it's been a year, so he like got over it. And then he decides not to say anything and he leaves, and he ends up working at like this restaurant. It's like a traditional Korean food restaurant where they have like a lot of stews and other stuff like that. And he's working there, and Hyeojin comes in a few times, and he has the kimchi he makes, and they have a bit of a conversation there. It's a little awkward because he clearly is still in love, and he wants to like talk to him. And it's mentioned here that Hyeojin actually notices that they're very similar and they act similar, but he like thinks it's crazy for him to even see the similarities, and he never wants to replace his Jaewoo with this new Jaewoo, right? So then he goes home, gives the kid the kimchi and everything. He notices that the kimchi tastes very similar to what Jaewoo used to make, and that makes him go back to the shop and like want to interact with this Jaewoo. So then he asks him, "Hey, do you know So Jaewoo from so and so?" And then Jaewoo's like, "Yeah, ha ha ha, I totally do. I was the one that taught him how to cook." I'm like, what? What do you say? But okay, is that how you want to play it? I felt like that was such a weird way to deal with it, but I guess it's better than telling him, "Yeah, that was actually me. I took over that body, and then like I died, and then I came back in my original body because this is a book." So I guess you got to do what you got to do, right? So then it's explained that that's what's happening, da da da, and they become friends, whatever, and then they end up living together because he rents out the room that he used to be in. Hyeojin rents out the room to Jaewoo for 200,000 won, which is like $200. And yeah, they're having a grand old time. It's very reminiscent of the beginning of the story, except he still doesn't know that it's the original Jaewoo. Also, we learn around this time, or before they move in, that Mujin has been visiting this place all the time, like to reminisce about the original Jaewoo. And this is also the time where Hyojin finally realizes, "Oh my God, you're the original Jaewoo," and they have a cute little moment. I felt like, yeah, I guess sure, it's believable. It is what it is. I just feel like everything's going by quickly. I feel like maybe a few more chapters were needed to maybe just live together and like resolve that. But okay, sure, I'll accept that it wasn't that badly done. But of course, Creeper Mujin is in the background. Like, yeah, I heard that too. So yeah, the next day he comes to his workplace and he's like, "Yeah, I know that you're the original Jaewoo, like the one that died. So like, since you come back, you have to become mine." And I'm like, "Sir, that's like a lifetime ago. What do you mean?" Um, of course, Jaewoo's like, "Nope, I'm not gonna be taken over by this guilt trip of yours anymore. I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm gonna make him happy. I'm gonna live with not Jaewoo, Hyojin, and you're gonna have to deal." And Mujin is like, "You know what? You're right. I am going to have to deal. I try to force you to become mine, and that only ended up making you miserable, and it also only resulted in your death. So, like, I'm going to be a big man and accept that I've lost in this battle of love." And I was very proud of him for that. I was like, "Oh my God. Oh my God, sir. Good for you. Good for you." Because crazy tops don't get a lot of redemption. They just be crazy until the end and then they die. You know what I'm saying? Or they go to jail. But in this case, this one was like pretty normal. Ish. Let's not go wild though. He's still crazy. Eugene also, I mean no, Eugene never let go. He was crazy till the end. Um, but yeah, that's how the story ends. They open up a cute little restaurant, and I guess there's some extras that I'm still waiting for, but yeah, they open up the restaurant. The kids are all there, and they're kissing at the end. I feel like the art also changed a little bit in the last few chapters. Like things felt a little bit odd. Like it started off so pretty and like plump, and then at the end it felt a little bit like more two-dimensional, if that makes any sense. But it wasn't bad. I think my gripe with it was sometimes Jaewoo was just, there was be things that would happen to him that were clearly concerning, and instead of like being worried about it, he would just accept it. He would just be like, yeah, this person choked me out, it really hurt, and I fainted afterwards out of like exposia. I feel like that's the word. And I'm fine with that. Like, I feel like that's what will go through his mind. And that was concerning to me. That was concerning because I feel like he didn't feel like two-dimensional anymore. He felt like oddly, I mean, not two-dimensional, sorry. He didn't feel three-dimensional. He felt oddly unconcerned for his safety in a lot of the story. Like, even Hyeojin was like, are you crazy? And Mujin also will question him all the time. It was like a bunny going into slaughter. He was just so okay with putting himself in danger. And it wasn't like he was in danger a lot of times, but when it was like key moments, he was just so unconcerned. And in those moments, he felt very two-dimensional. Like, even when he's gonna get stabbed, like, he sees this person like hovering, and he's just like, oh, what is that guy doing? And he just stares at him for a while, and then he remembers the message that he got from Ujun saying, oh, I'm gonna send somebody over, and it's like this relating to his death. And he's like, oh snap, that's the person that he sent. And then he gets stabbed, and I'm just like, maybe what, maybe I'm being too picky. But there was just cases like that. Also, I wondered if Hyojin kind of like trauma bonded with Jaewoo a little bit, because not trauma bonded, that's the wrong word, but like his trauma led him to like see Jaewoo as like his love interest, because he was the only person that was ever so nice to him. So it was like almost a dependency. I feel like maybe we needed a little bit more time with the characters, but it wasn't bad. It was very cute for a light read, but you're not gonna get a lot of deep understanding of the characters, other than Hyojin is always in debt and is kind-hearted and is a little bit like sad and depressed because of his situation, but also a little bit nihilistic. And then Jaewoo is like happy-go-lucky, loves to cook, is a writer, has very low instances of like self-preservation. And then Mujin is crazy, but he also like grew up poor, so then that like drove him to become a gangster and build his company and essentially survive from the bottom to the top and become a tiger of finance or whatever. And then Ujin is a magical boy that does not dress like a magical boy. I wish you would have dressed in a magical boy outfit, but whatever. And he's essentially quite selfish, very entitled, and feels like the only way that Jaewoo would have liked him is if he hid his personality, which is very true, because if he said himself that he hid a lot of parts of himself. So apparently he was a piece of poop the entire time, and Jaewoo did not know. So yeah, I recommend it. Like, it's a cute read. Just a little bit more two-dimensional characters than I would have liked, but Jaewoo was a fun little laugh. The way he was just double crossing people at all times was hilarious. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.